Hi, this is Duncan from Rock and Roll Reviews, and I'm joined by Robin from The Ocean. How you doing, Robin?
Good, thanks.
So, you guys are making a short trip to Glasgow, play a gig, and then it's off to Tech Fest on Sunday. You looking forward to playing that?
Yeah, for sure. I already just told you, we don't really feel part of this whole tech and gent scene too much, but it's a cool lineup, it's a cool festival, and there's going to be a good crowd, so it should be fun, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying just before we were recording, I mean, The Ocean, as a unit, as a band, with your albums, you know, precede a lot of this kind of new wave, kind of gent acts that have come up, but your music's, it doesn't really fit easily into any real subcategory. It's kind of like progressive metal, but that kind of, I feel that does injustice to your band just calling it progressive metal.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you had to describe your music, how would you describe it?
I really suck at that. I usually leave that up to to journalists or reviewers. I don't know, like we've never tried to fit into a certain category, and that's why I guess we're blending in elements from all different kinds of styles of basically rock and metal, and also some more like ambient moments, and it's really hard to describe, I guess, and I don't think you need to, leave that up to the people who listen to the music to come up with their own terms and categories. I think most of them fall short. Usually throw us in the post-metal category, which is a very broad term.
Yeah.
Again, progressive metal makes me think of stuff I don't like.
Yeah.
So like it's the term itself would make sense, but it's usually associated with bands that I don't think we're very close to musically.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We're just a loud rock band with hopefully our own approach to things, and if people want to throw us in either one of those categories, I don't really care.
So your last album, Pelagio, I think I pronounced that right, was, and I found that we're just speaking there, I thought it was album number 6, but it turns out it was album number 7. Came out last year. Now you did the production on that album as well as performed on it, so you recorded as well as performed. How do you juggle those two responsibilities? Because obviously as an artist and contributing as part of the band, you're writing music with the band. When you go to record, you have a different input into that. Is that difficult, or are the band quite trusting of your vision of how things will sound?
Well, I have to say I didn't entirely produce the record on my own. It was actually mixed by Jens Bobren, who contributed quite a lot to the whole production part in the end. So it was not only myself, it was a conscious choice to get in someone external who had not been involved with the recordings or with the writing of the music at a stage when everything was basically done, to have some distance to what we had been doing up until that point, and I think that was a very good choice. So Jens and me worked together really well, and I think he did a great job mixing this record. As far as recording goes, and the actual producing part, I think it's very much interwoven, like with the it's the same kind of process as the writing. When I write music, I can't just like write a riff and then go to the studio and record that. As soon as I write a riff, I program drums, then strings come in eventually, or piano or other instruments, and I usually deliver like very detailed pre-productions of a song that really make you be able to get the full picture. The final recording is usually very close to those pre-productions. It just sounds better, like when you program MIDI strings, of course that's shit, so in the studio we're recording them with actual players.
Yeah.
And the guitars are in the pre-productions run through guitar rig, and then of course in the studio we reamp everything, use real amps and stuff, so it all sounds fatter and better, but the production process starts with the writing for me, really, and it's not like a separate realm so much.
So you, as a musician writing guitar riffs, are picturing not just, this riff sounds cool, you're picturing where it fits within an entire song.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I need to have the full picture, like the big picture basically, in order to really see how a part is going to work, because sometimes you have a super simple riff that is super efficient, but it's not because of the riff itself, it's because of the drums, the way it interacts with the drums, and that's why I said before, I can't just write a riff. Like I always, when I write a riff, I hear drums, and they need to be worked out, and the way you approach the drums may influence the way you approach the riff, for example. So it's like it's all connected, and And that's why my personal approach to writing is to always try and have the big picture and write all the instruments more or less together.
Yeah. So the band name is obviously the ocean, and the albums follow a kind of oceanic theme in terms of the names. I mean, is that something you're conscious of as well when you're writing music? Is that it all has to have some sort of concept, a kind of theme from the start? And I mean, how does that influence the writing? If writing a riff, building a song into a concept, how does all that work?
That was quite different between the various albums we recorded. Up until the Centric records, it was pretty much always the case that the music was there first, and then I started thinking about the lyrics and the whole conceptual embedding of the music. Now with Pelagial, it was different for the first time. Pelagial was really an album that was written from the beginning to the end with an idea, with a concept in mind, basically, which is this journey from the surface of the ocean into the abysses of the deep sea, basically. And I wanted to transform that into music somehow, starting out with fairly lightweight, playful, surface-ish kind of like music, and then getting progressively heavier and darker and deeper as the listener is approaching the deep sea parts, pretty much. So with this record, that was clear from the beginning. That was the paradigm that set the course for the writing of every single riff, pretty much. And so every time I wrote a riff, I pretty much knew where this part would end up on the timeline of the record.
Yes.
And that has not been the case with the previous records. They were just like basically random songs I wrote that I then put together later and put in an order that made sense. And then the whole conceptual frame was really that, a frame. With Pelagial, it's not a frame; it's the backbone of it, basically. That really was the starting point for everything.
As it stands just now, it's been, I think it must be about a year since the album came out. Is that about right? It's about a year now?
Yeah, a little longer, yeah.
Is there any plans to, like, when your tour finishes, will you be going straight into a new album, or will you be taking a break, a bit of time, or what's the plans for the ocean after this?
Well, we've been touring on Pelagial quite extensively since its release. We did a tour with Cult of Luna when it came out, pretty much just before it came out. Then we did Summer Slaughter tour in the US last year. We did a tour of Asia and Russia and China after that. And then a European headliner tour in November. So last year we've been on the road for 7 months. This year we did a US headliner tour, and now just summer festivals basically. So now we're approaching the end of the touring cycle, I guess. There's still a couple of territories we want to do towards the end of the year. We're going to do Australia and Asia again, certain other parts of Asia. But then I think next year we're through. And then we're probably going to take a little break. I've already started writing new material, but there's no plan to record or release a new record anytime soon. We're probably going to record it next year, but I'm not sure if it's going to come out next year. I feel that Pelagial has really opened up a lot of doors for us, and we've been able to reach a larger audience with that record. So there's possibly still a lot more touring to be done on the record too. If we get another really good US support slot offered, then we will probably do that. But we're getting a bit tired of the songs now. It's really been like after 7 months of playing them, and we're always playing the record in its entirety now, which makes sense because that's how the album was incepted, and that's how it's meant to be received, basically.
Yes, yeah.
So it only makes sense, but it gets boring if you do it too long. We're getting to the point now where we really want to do something different, and that's what's probably going to speed up the writing process a bit, because we're just keen on playing new material or mixing certain parts of Pelagial with all this stuff, which can to a degree also work.
Yes, I was going to say that, because I mean, if you approach your next album with what you went through on this current tour in mind, would you do another concept album which should be received as a whole, or will you approach it more of like an older kind of blueprint of doing individual sort of songs to bring into an album?
Yeah, I think I'm gearing more towards the latter now, just because we've just done the whole super tight concept album kind of thing, which kind of ties you to it then, you know, because if you do it on record like that, you kind of have to deliver it live like that. And as I said before, it's possible to mix certain tracks with all the material. Musically, that wouldn't be so much of a big deal. There's some interesting transitions, you know, that you can make happen to connect the newer with the older material, but the visual side makes it really hard because Pellegio came out with a movie. It's basically you know, again, one long film, and it's aesthetically, it's all very, I don't know, like it has its own strong identity. You can't really mix that with the older stuff, or then, you know, play 3 songs with videos, then have tracks without videos. So that's what makes it hard. Like the more elements of production you bring in, again, the more tight you are to them, and then the less flexible you are with regards to mixing older with newer material. So right now, I think I'm more keen to just write a record that's a good record, and not to worry so much about you know, like the conceptual frame of it.
I mean, you were mentioning there you toured with Cult of Luna, and obviously they've just finished a concept album and they're taking time off. They've just said they don't know when they'll be back, and I'm quite glad that you guys aren't doing that, because genuinely one of the bands that as soon as I know that one of your albums is coming out that year, that's me. I'm ready to hear that album. I mean, moving forward, you were saying that there's some territories that you still do just now. Is there anywhere else that you haven't played yet that you really want to play as a band?
South America.
Yes.
I've never made it over there. We went to Mexico last year. It was great, a really cool experience, and definitely want to go to South America. And we've been talking to a guy in South Africa who wanted to bring us down there. There's a growing scene, but it's very expensive and difficult to get there. So yeah, there's still a lot of territories I still want to get to. We've toured with this band. We've toured all over Europe, pretty much in every country, and the US and North America. And then we've done an extensive tour of Russia, like 24 shows, up like all the way east until Siberia. So not just the European part of Russia, but like all the way east. And then we've done most of Asia too. But yeah, there's always more places to play, you know, and it was part of the reason why I wanted to be in a band. It was to travel, to see places, and it's very exciting to be able to see all these places through the perspectives of not just a tourist, you know, but like a touring musician, because then you get to hang out with locals in a different way, and it's just it's a different perspective to being a backpacker, for example. So it's really cool to be able to do that. Yeah, South America is definitely the next big thing for us that we're going to be working on.
Excellent. So you were saying obviously the last album came out with like a short movie, which kind of all tied it in, the concept, the whole thing. And we were speaking earlier on that your first album, and I didn't know this, and I've not heard this album, was a purely instrumental album. Being the sort of musician who composes almost like a classical composer, the way you write your music, is that something you would like to do further down the line? Is maybe soundtrack film if you got presented with the opportunity? Definitely. It's something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and yeah, it's true. Our approach to writing music with the ocean is very classical in a way. We're not a band that jams in the rehearsal space, you know, and jams out riffs. It's music that is usually written by one person, which in the past has mostly been me. But you know, like our old guitar player contributed a couple tracks to our Anthropocentric record too. But again, those were tracks that he wrote. So writing for us is a very intimate process, and for me, it involves a lot of. It's a very polyphonic approach to it, you know, like I said, you have to keep everything in mind, all the guitars, the drums, the classical instruments, the piano parts and all that. So that brings it closer to classical music in a way than to rock and roll. You know? And that's why I would really like to dig deeper into that territory and write something to a movie, like to moving images, which is a great challenge, I suppose. We've done it the other way around. Now we've written an album, and then we've made a movie that fits the album. But to make music for a movie is like kind of like the opposite approach, and that's something I would really like to try out at one point. Our website primarily does music, but we also do movie reviews as well. And we like to ask every person that we interview if one, they get a chance to check out any movies, and if they do, have you seen anything recently they quite liked or anything they didn't?
I have not been watching movies in a long time because I've been really, really busy, and I'm a quite restless person. So even when when I'm in a van, I usually work on my laptop. I run a record label too that I have to keep going while I'm on tour. So it's hard for me to just chill down and just watch a movie. So the last movie I watched, I think, was Gaspar Noé's Enter the Void.
Oh,
But that's an old one.
Yeah.
but a great movie.
It's a bit trippy.
Yeah, it's very trippy.
Yeah.
Ayahuasca.
Is there anything that you've seen, and maybe in the last year then, that you didn't like movie-wise, or is there a particular type of movie that you would try and avoid?
I have a hard time getting into comedy usually, unless it's very special. There's a German comedian that I'm really into, but most of the American comedies just don't really do much for me. But usually, if I don't like a movie, I realize very early, and I just bail out. Like I don't force myself to go through to the very end. So.
That's cool. Well, thank you very much for your time, Robin. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and I look forward to seeing you later on.
All right.